record to the. Say it loudly. Yeah.
Please, we really need it.
Yep. So
I always do that.
We'll not let you forget that.
that's a good thing. You guys are paying attention. That's it. Okay, so let's talk about SDLC, right? You guys all know it's a software development lifecycle, right? Without looking at the books, can you tell me what is the first phase of SDLC? What is it? Okay, so somebody remember planning. Okay, that's great. All right, what would be the next phase?
Design.
Okay, what is it? Analysis, right? Okay. All right, so you have an analysis phase. What is the, okay, now it's a design.
Design code.
Okay. This one you should remember by heart because this is what you do, right? Yeah, any project, I mean, not Airflow, anything that you do in IT, it follows the same SDLC. Okay, after that, okay, implementation, testing. Okay, good. Okay, so you guys are kind of like a cranking. Okay, maintenance. That's good. What is it?
I was saying that after maintenance.
Okay, so it's a cycle, right? That's why it's called software development life cycle. So it starts over again and so forth. Okay, so yep, you guys is good. So this is what we are talking about here. Okay, so when we say SDLC, this is what we are discussing here. Okay, give me a second. Yep, this is better. All right, so this is the cycle. Now let's talk about a little bit what we do in each phase. So you guys remember the SDLC, but let's talk about what happens in the planning phase and so forth. See if you guys remember. Anybody online or anybody in the class? What happens in the planning phase for us? Anybody remember?
We decide here why we need the software. Do we need this or not? Whatever
Okay.
we are building up, is it going to help the customer or not?
Okay, so that's part of the planning. So that's where you start, right? Companies have multiple software requests, multiple projects. Let's say 5 people, marketing wants something done, finance wants something done. So they all will send a request to whoever. Typically, it's called steering committee in the company, where a bunch of head of the departments, they look at all the requests and they say, oh, this one gives us most ROI, return on investment. And they will say, yep, we want to get this project done instead of the other ones. Okay, it's a planning process. Now, that is the first step in the planning. So let's say you pick the project. What happens next in the planning?
Project schedule, like how long is it?
So scheduling, okay, because somebody has to plan out. It's a planning process. So what is your budget? What is your schedule looks like? How many people I need based on my budget and who I need on the team. So that all goes in the planning as well. Okay, so once you pick the project, all these different activities. Now, who does the planning? Who is mainly engaged in the planning process? So business, yes, obviously business needs to be there, but who else from the IT standpoint? Who leads the planning effort? Project manager, right? So planning phase is all about all these activities, but somebody has to manage these activities. And that is typically called project manager, okay, in this IT world. Now you will hear different terminologies for the same person, but project PM is the most common name or role in the IT, who takes care of this scheduling and everything else. Okay, so let's move on. So once you are done, so at the end of the planning, what is the output? What's the output? So scheduling is output. How many resources I will need, who I need on the team, depending on the whatever the high level solution they have, right? So you saw the business had a business problem for our flow. That typically happens in the planning as well. What is the high level? This is my high level project goal, and let's get the right people on the team. Okay. Now, when you move on to the analysis, so you identify business problem. Now let's get to the actual project work, right? So that's where the analysis phase comes in. And who typically does analysis? Who is engaged in this phase?
BA.
BA, right? So business analyst typically, so PM says, oh, I need this first person on the team, which is a business analyst, who actually works with the business users, sits down, collects all type of requirement. There are various techniques they go through. They conduct the interviews of the stakeholders. They run the focus group meeting. If they have different departments to deal with, they just throw everybody in the room and go through requirements, asking questions, interviews, and all those things. And they collect the requirements. Okay. What is the output here? Analysis phase. What happens at the end? What do you get?
Business required document or something like
So business
Yeah.
requirement.
Mhm.
So requirements that you typically get out of this phase. Now, where do you come in the picture in the analysis phase? As a QA, where do you come in the picture? What do you do in the analysis phase?
Isn't it read through the requirement?
So 3C and T, right?
Yeah.
So you are there because we identified the team in the planning. It's just that you are not heavily engaged in collecting the requirements, documenting it, but you are still there as part of the team. And in the Agile world, I mean, it's very common. I mean, you are working very closely with the business, along with the business analyst and developers and everybody. In the waterfall approach, you will still get the requirements at the end, and you have to review and provide feedback and do 3C and T analysis. You work through that process and let them correct the requirement if anything is missing. Now, what is that you produce at the end of analysis phase? Is there anything that you produce?
Thank you for this, like, if the requirement they give to you is not complete, and then you have to send to them and say, oh, this requirement, you can get this.
No, that's a feedback. So that is part of the review process, right? But do you produce anything as a QA?
No,
You don't?
we just get the requirements and start our work.
Well, so what is involved in the work, right? So let's talk about what is that?
Test
Well,
scenario and test case and test plan.
The plan.
test plan document. Okay, then it's a you start working on that because now you understand the requirement. You will start working on. You will start looking into test plan. Okay, so you will have create some type of document test plan which identifies the high level scenarios. High level. Remember, you went through. I think you guys went through the high level estimation exercise, right? So at the end of the right over there, you have to create the high level estimate and provide to the PM so that they can schedule, put it in the schedule and everything else. But test plan, right? So what is in the test plan? Anybody recall what's in the test plan? What is it?
Tree diagram.
Tree diagram, okay. Tree diagram, is that in the test plan? Has anybody read the test plan document that we have, like a 20-page?
Oh, okay.
Okay, so you guys haven't looked at the test plan document. Okay. All right, so if you haven't read it, so let's not talk about it. You know that you have to produce test plan, but it is one of the things that you will end up either provide input or you will end up creating, depending on if you are a lead, yes, you will create the test plan document. But if you are just beginner, you will have to provide estimate that goes in the test plan document. Okay. So at the end, you will have your test plan. Now let's move on to the design phase. See what is who does the work, by the way, in the design phase? Developers, right? The senior developer or lead developer, or basically those folks, they will do the design activities. Okay. While they are going through design, what is that you do as a QA? While they are designing, do you do anything? Or at end of the design phase, what is that your output?
Test cases.
Test cases. Well, you don't have test cases yet, right?
I'll say like understanding the requirement.
Well, requirements are done. Remember, analysis phase, that's where you complete the review of the requirement. You provided the feedback, same requirement goes out to the developers, and they will start looking into design. But while they are working through design, is there anything that you do as a QA? What did you guys do for the design?
X scenarios.
No, this is not a development yet, right? This is not a development. Yes, go ahead. So somebody was saying online.
Maybe finding out the test scenarios, because we have the requirement and developer had already started.
Yep. Okay. So test scenarios, right? I mean, test scenarios, yes, you will do that as part of the test planning activity, right? Now, we give you guys required design document, right? What did you guys do? Design document. You still reviewed it, right? I mean, and see if it meets you don't understand all the technical jargons, which is perfectly fine. But at least you understood what is the architecture that is being laid out. If there are discrepancy, 6 months archiving versus 6 months, 1 year in the requirement. So you need to point out, get clarification, and see what are the things that could be causing issue, right? So it's part of the review process. But you will work through the test planning, test plan document. You will update it if there are any changes in there. Okay. Is everybody clear with the activity wise, right? All right, let's move on to the implementation phase. What happens in the implementation phase? Now I have the design, everything good. So what is implementation?
That's really create the code.
Right, so you have a bunch of developers looking at the design and the requirements, and they will start coding actually. And however they do it is their business. But what is it you do as a QA now?
You create test cases.
What do you do before test cases? Right, so it's an analysis basically, right? The whole process, what you've been doing over the last 2 weeks, that is what you do. Breaking down the requirements in detail, looking at the design, and you have the navigation flow and how those things work. So now you can start writing actually detailed test cases at that point. Okay, and that's while developers are developing it, you are writing those things in parallel. Now, whether you are writing in on a piece of paper, generally you will not. You will use some type of tool. Okay, so in the companies, and we'll talk about one of those tools today. But that's the activity that you will do. So at the end of the implementation phase, what will you have? All the test cases, all the scenarios, whatever, nothing left, right? For this requirement. Okay. Now, at the end of the implementation or coding phase, what is the next activity for you guys? Or what happens for the team, I guess? What is next? I guess what happens in the testing, right? What happens in the testing? You test.
We run the test cases.
So
Just create the-
you don't create the test scenarios, right? So everything is done at the end of implementation. All this activity, whatever you guys did over last 2 weeks, that's complete. And then developer will give you the actual working software. Like I sent you guys a link, I think, right? So you receive a working software and then you execute those test cases. That's what happens in the testing phase. So you start executing. So if one requirement has 4 test cases, you will execute all 4 and see if they all pass or fail. If it passes, you will consider that requirement is being implemented correctly in the software. Okay,
Special line preparation.
yes,
When we gonna do the smoke test or sanity test, is a taste or?
yeah, it's part of the, it's just a different types of testing.
You know all the tests.
Yep, yep. Now, you guys understand what is smoke test, right? Okay, because you haven't done any testing yet, right? So you haven't actually done anything yet, right? You just did the planning activity, which is, which goes in from analysis to implementation. You haven't executed anything yet, right? So. But smoke test, just in general, right? It's if somebody gives you software. Can I just log in if the site comes up? That's all the basic testing. That's called smoke testing, right? Hey, site is, if I hit that URL that I gave you guys, and if the site doesn't come up, what's the point of executing anything, right? So that's considered a smoke test. Once you get into the site, then you can see, okay, now I can do functional test or system test, execute all the test cases one by one. And those are detailed testing, basically, system or function.
So those type of tests come after implementation.
Yeah, because you need a working software, right? Without software, what you're gonna execute, you can't do anything, right? All the activities that you did so far is just on piece of paper or putting somewhere documenting those test cases. You don't have software. You did not have software, right? But once you get the software, that's what you're gonna do all this execution here in the testing phase. Okay. Now, what if something is not working properly in the software?
You gotta send it back to the.
I know, what's the process? What is that process name?
Defect management.
Go ahead, what is it?
Defect management process where you log the defect.
Yep, it's the defect management, okay? So that happens in the testing phase. If something you execute your test case, and if it's not working properly, or you see some different behavior, what is expected versus actual? So you have expected result. You will compare with the actual result when you actually execute the test. And if there is a difference, you're gonna open a defect at that point. Okay, so that's the defect, and then you send it back to the developer. Hey, please fix this defect. So that's where that happens in the testing phase. Okay, you might have some automation tests you can execute as part of it. There are various kind of testing, right? Regression test. You heard the terminology. What is regression? Can anybody explain? What's called regression testing? You understood the smoke test, right? What is functional testing? You are executing, testing each functionality, all these test cases for single requirement. That's a functional testing. But what's regression test?
If there is a change.
When we repeat our work after like fixing the defect thing. When we-
Based on that new. Okay,
If-
so defect is there, so after the defect is fixed, So you need to test that defect part, that is called regression.
And also.
It's
like,
not.
Regression is,
Yeah.
regression is, whenever there is a bug or whenever, and the bugs is getting fixed, we check that that bug doesn't allow another bug in the system, like
It doesn't break other functionality.
other functionality, yes.
Because so what you do is typically you execute all the test cases, repeat everything, same cycle. So if there are 50 test cases and one piece is changed, so defect is fixed, you want to execute those 50 test cases again. Okay, so sometimes it's a tedious process, and that's why the automation comes in the picture. Okay, for regression testing. Okay, that's why they have automation tools, and we'll talk a little bit later on those automation side. But so that's a regression test. Something changes, you execute all the test cases again, just to ensure that other functionality did not break by introducing the change in the system. Okay. So now hopefully that gives you some context about where you guys fit in, or what happens in the testing phase, and what are different types of testing you can do. And once we execute some test cases, we'll know a little bit further. Okay. All right, so let's move on. So it's an important phase, right? Testing is important phase, but you, as you understand, you do a lot of activities in the analysis, design, and implementation. Planning, you don't do much because you are not there in the planning phase. At the end of the planning, they will bring you on board along with the BAs and other team members. But other than that, you are not there. Okay, let's talk about acceptance. What happens in the acceptance test? You guys remember? Who does acceptance testing?
User.
Users, right? So it's not, well, and so what is that you do? Do you have a role to play in the acceptance test?
Mhm.
Yes, no? Maybe.
No, only business.
As a tester, we will be sitting with the business, the stakeholder, and process the test cases. And if they feel like, we need to test a particular part because it is not working, we are just making it, we are doing testing with the stakeholder.
So what it is, it's called end user support, right? That's the terminology they typically have, supporting the end users for testing activities. So you may not execute it yourself because you are done. I mean, you are testing and you certified the software. Hey, everything is working good at end of testing phase. Software goes to the business to actually test it out further. They evaluate the software. Hey, can I submit a loan application? It goes to the right lender, comes back to me. They look at from the little bit higher level viewpoint. You are looking at, if I click on this button, can I submit credit application? They are looking at from the process standpoint, end to end. Okay, so they will not have detailed test cases like you, but they will have a higher level test cases from the business process standpoint. They are very similar, right? Because you are testing as a QA, we emphasize you to understand the business process, right? Because you need to test end to end everything. But business has a more view. They only focus on the end to end process, nothing else. Okay, but you are looking at, hey, if I log in as a home page, can I see this loan calculator link or not as a dealer? That's what you are looking at. Business doesn't care. Can I do my work? If not, I'm going to open a defect, or they will ask you to open a defect. Okay, so to the QAs. Sometimes BAs are heavily engaged, depending on the company structure. They work with the BA or QA who are company assigned. Okay. Now, what happens at the end of acceptance? So generally at end of acceptance, business say, yep, everything is good and is ready to be deployed in production. It means ready to be rolled out into actual working as a working software. to everybody. So as part of the acceptance, generally, if there are 50 users in the company or 50 business people, maybe 5 will be testing the software for end-to-end process. And then they will roll it out to everybody on the production environment, in the production environment. Okay, so once it goes in production, the final phase is maintenance. So what would be the maintenance thing? What are some of the things happens in the maintenance? Bugs are there. Yep. What else?
Just make sure it's running properly as it should.
Okay, so you are monitoring the software and so forth. So here, generally, I mean, everything goes to the production, right? Then you have support team. Generally, in the companies, they have a team supporting the production operations for the software. Now, bugs, there is a different classification of bugs. If there are minor fixes, they will do it. But if there are functionality changes, they will not be able to touch anything on the software. So like adding a new feature. Let's say they have a dealer and now they want to add some other functionality. They will not do as part of the maintenance. Okay.
So like during that, the Agile method, the waterfall method, for the Agile method, I don't think it's
For Agile, I mean, it's the same thing. Maintenance is maintenance, right? So this is SDLC is not related. I mean, whether you are using waterfall or you are using Agile, the SDLC will still remain same. So maintenance is maintenance. Okay. So what activities doesn't change, whether you are using Agile methodology or project or waterfall.
but I thought you could add a different functionality, like videos.
So what you typically do is you start out with the planning. If you are adding a new functionality, maintenance cannot do it. Minor patches, minor fixes, something like that. They all only those type of activities will happen in maintenance. Okay. But otherwise, if they are adding new feature, you go to the planning process. Okay. And Agile, what are we doing in Agile? Right. We will talk next as well. Okay. Because I want to make sure you understand that before we dive into the tools side of things. Okay. So maintenance, you might be working on different project. They will put you on different project because that's not your role to maintain generally. Okay, you are delivering. This is the SDLC, right? So you're working on building something new or maintenance or enhancement type of things. But maintenance is done by production support team, production operations team, and so forth. Okay.
So, if you're adding a new feature, you have to maintain the whole site.
Yeah.
That means then that will be another release, but this release is done.
Yeah, this release is done. Yeah, that's what it is. Yep. This release is done. And now in the Agile, the releases happens every 2 to 3 weeks, right? It's a shorter cycle with the smaller features. Maybe just a login functionality, you roll that out first. Then you have a dealer functionality, roll that out. Then loan calculator, you roll that out every 2 weeks or 3 weeks. So you keep on adding, building new features, basically.
My question, like, for example, in a loan calculator, we fix like 3% of the loan amount.
Yep.
So if our loan come back and saying, just add another feature, which is like another percentage. So when we are retesting again,
Yep.
so as part of retesting just the loan calculator or everything else?
Anything that you think you determine the impact, and generally it's everything. What are the major functionality related to the loan calculation?
Okay.
Yeah, so you execute all the, let's say you had 20 test cases, right? So you probably want to execute all 20 test cases again for related to the loan calculator and maybe loan submission as well, because you need to credit application part as well. But you may not test the dealer, manage dealer and manage user because it's nothing to do with that. Right. Okay. All right, so good with this. Okay. Memorize this. This is what you guys need to remember. And these are some of the interview questions as well. Okay, because if they ask you certain things, you should be able to answer what is that you did And if you've done it here, then only you can recall, okay, yep, I did this test cases analysis and all those things. Okay. All right, so let's move on to the next thing. And okay, give me a second. So this is what we have, and I'll send you the slides. I'll put it on the set side so that you can have this, but memorize this, right? Because this is the activities that you guys have done. And this is what you should do as part of that, right? So like what happens in the planning, what happens in the requirements, who does what? Basically as part of the functionality, when the test plan comes in the picture, test cases, test scripts, as part of the implementation, execution comes in the testing, verification, basically there's test execution and test results, but done by the business from that standpoint, okay? All right, so we'll move on, right?
I have a question.
Yes,
So like, for maintenance, and then you're talking about the defect, they report defect over there. So you have to start over and then.
if they fix only that part as part of your testing, no, you don't start over. I mean, when you say start over, what do you mean by start over?
Go back to the planning and then you do the requirement, or you just start for testing.
Oh, no, when they report a defect, you are on the testing phase, right? So that's you just focus on the testing.
Oh,
So if they fix something, you retest.
okay.
You execute your test cases again on that particular functionality. And see if everything works. All right. Let's move on. So let's understand a little bit further how this process works in general, and who does what, right? So generally, I mean, the development, now we are focusing on the development. And I want to get you a little bit overview of what different types of testing everybody does and where they come into play, okay? So for Airflow, we have 3 developers working on the Airflow development, right? So they typically work on the development environment. Okay, so development environment meaning they are writing the code on their laptops, right? Like you guys have it. But at the end, they will deploy it maybe on nightly basis or maybe twice a day to some type of centralized location. Okay, the code. And this is kind of like a called development server, basically. So that's where they'll be deploying the code on a daily basis at the end of the day. Okay. Now, developer, when they are writing the code, they have to do some type of testing. They want to make sure their code works and all those things. Does anybody remember what is that testing called?
Unit testing. Unit
Testing, right?
Integration.
Yep. So they typically create the unit test, which is nothing but another type of code. Okay, so it's actually code that they can create, or they can have their own spreadsheet type of scenarios. Hey, if I input kind of like a loan calculator, right? If I plug in, if I send this input, it should give me this output type of thing. But it's typically called unit testing. Okay, over here. But let's say they executed, everything is ready for you, and they completed the development testing. They put it out the code for you to test it in the test environment. So generally, you will have dev environment, you have test environment, you have UAT environment, and so forth. So UAT environment will be there where the users will be doing some type of testing and so forth. And finally, you will have production environment. Now, when we talk about environment, right? So it could be one server, could be multiple server, doesn't matter. Okay. But what's the difference between the dev versus production? Production is production, right? Number of users are a lot more in production. If you think about Amazon, right? Maybe development server, they might have 5 or 10 or 15, but in production, they might have thousands of servers to support millions of users. Okay, so it's a hardware infrastructure will change between environments. Okay. So we talked about the testing, right? So developer will do unit testing. In the development environment, that they are doing the integration testing, which it happens on the server. Now, can anybody explain me what is integration testing here? And what's the purpose? Right, so think about this guy is working on login, this guy is working on the dealer loan calculator, this guy is working on something else. They don't have the full code, basically base, or sometimes they may not, right? Or so what they do is they put it out on the central environment, and somebody, some maybe lead generally is responsible for integration tests. So lead actually logs in, and they actually try to access the loan calculator, see if they are able to calculate properly. Because everybody is working on different module, they don't test anybody else's code. So lead typically does the integration type of test. Make sure all the features work from end to end. Okay, so once the lead certifies and everybody is good, then they will move it on to test environment for you to test. Now you guys do, once you get a code, you guys do a lot of testing, right? You smoke, system, functional regression, all type of tests. As I said, I mean, smoke test is smoke test, right? Nothing can the URL come up. System is everything end to end. Maybe I send email, see if it comes up, right? If I send, can I send email between interaction with the different parts and components? Functional is, does the loan calculator work, right? Specific functionality you are focusing on. Regression, I'm executing everything and it doesn't work everything, right? If I make a change, does it work everything, right? Doesn't break anything. So that's the regression side of things. Anything else you guys do testing wise? Sanity, smoke test, yeah, those are kind of like a similar in nature. Anybody remember white box, black box?
Oh, yes. Yes.
So what's the white box? So what falls in the white box and what falls in the black box here? Just looking at this type of testing.
Yeah, white box is generally done by the developer who have idea about what they have developed, what they have coded, and black box is done by the testers who doesn't know. Yeah.
That's correct. So unit testing and integration testing, developers know what's in the code.
Yeah.
So these two tests are typically called white box because they understand the code. They wrote the code. They know what's in there, and they understand. So it's called white box type of testing. Here you have zero idea about code, how it's being written. You are testing from the user interface, deep down, through the application.
So that would be black boxes.
These are all black box.
They all are.
This unit and integration is white box because it's done by the developers or the development team. Okay. Same thing, black box is obviously UAT is black box, user have no idea, and so forth. Now, performance. What is performance test? I think we did talk about, right? A little bit, maybe definition wise. Anybody has any thoughts? What's the performance test?
I think we check performance, like if many users comes all in the same time, so system behaving like same way as we expecting or some other way.
Yeah, it's that can be a performance test, part of the performance test. So the 500 users, can the Airflow supports? It's called load test, load and performance test, right? But performance can be as simple as if I try to submit a credit application and the page does not show up in like 5 seconds, that could be also a performance test as well. If I try to log in and it takes like 10 seconds to let me log in, that's a performance issue as well. So generally, there are specialized testers called load and performance testers. They run specialized tools for performance testing. Because you can't have 500 users, how I'm going to simulate those 500 users? You cannot do it manually, right? Because unless you ask 500 people to log in at the same time, and that's not feasible, practical. So you will have specialized tools to do the performance testing. They are called performance testers. Okay, so it's a specialized skill set. Okay, so and finally, in the production, you will do smoke tests. You will not do anything else. Once you deploy, you want to make sure nothing is its site is coming up and users can do the work, right? So you will probably run the simple smoke test and then once the code is deployed. Okay, so these are testing side of things, right? Hopefully this gives you some idea. But let's talk about the tools because we want to dive into the tools and technologies now going forward, right? So let's see what are the things the different folks are using, or the team is using as part of the tools. So here, obviously, you need the development. They are using some development tools, maybe Java based or .NET based, whatever technology they have to write the code somewhere. So they will use those technologies. But for testing, these are the popular ones: JUnit, NUnit. These are specifically for the development. Okay, so you don't worry about those things. But they will have that installed on the laptops, and they will write the code using the JUnit and NUnit framework, and they will create the unit test for it. Okay. As far as your testing goes, right? What you are doing, you are writing on piece of paper, but that's not practical, right? So you probably will have Microsoft Office type of tool, right? Excel or Word. Then you have DevOps, where you are writing and documenting your test cases as well. Okay. You have Jira, where you are creating, writing the business. Somebody basically BA will write the requirement. You will create the test cases that ties to the requirement and so forth. Okay. ALM is another tool. This is from Micro Focus. Yeah, it used to be HP. They sold the company 5 years ago. So it's a Micro Focus ALM. But HP QC, I think you might have heard that term. Some companies still use that. I know Nationwide is big on ALM. At least it was. But a lot of companies like JP Morgan is heavy on Jira. A lot of state clients, they are in DevOps, Azure DevOps. So it depends on companies. They all do the same work, just a different company, just different competitive tools. That's all. So in this camp, we'll start with the DevOps today. Okay, we'll actually dive into this. We'll talk about Jira next week, where you can get hands-on as well on Jira. This one, we have videos. We have a tool here, but again, it's going away. So if you are interested, we can get you something on that. Okay. We'll talk about the Catalan is a automation testing tool. There are other tools like Ruby, Cucumber, Water, Selenium. It's a technology stack. Okay. So that's used UFT, QTP. That's another tool that you have. We used to teach UFT, QTP in the past, but now with the Windows 11, it's completely out of the window. Okay. So that tool doesn't work on Windows 11 laptops. So there are a lot of people have trouble running on it. So we are switching to the Catalan Studio, which is another popular tool for automation. Okay. There are a few other ones. We will talk as we go, talk about automation. Okay. SOAP UI and Postman. These are again testing tools, specifically for web services. Web service testing. And we'll have one full session dedicated on that. how to use the SOAP UI, what are the services, and how do you test them. Okay, so we'll talk on this tool as well. Web service or web APIs. These are called web APIs.
Web APIs.
Web API. Yep. Yeah, if you don't know the term, Google it. If you can watch a video, get up to started, I think that would be fine. Yep. There are plenty of videos on web API. Okay.
It will be a nice one.
Yeah. But in order to use those tools, you need to learn the XML. JSON is another technology format which we will cover as well. But just to get some idea what those APIs are and how it works. Okay. Again, business uses the same type of tools, right? DevOps. Now, DevOps, right? Jira and ALM. It's not limited to like just a QAs. These are centralized tools. So somebody, business analyst, will create the document the stories or requirements using those tools. You will go in, you will produce, document your test cases and so forth. Developers will actually put the code, basically manage the code using these tools. Okay, specifically DevOps, where they can deploy the code within DevOps and publish it. So it's a centralized tools. Okay, it's not like I'm the only one using it or QA is the only one. Okay, it's a complete tool. Think about, I mean, this company like Nationwide, they have business analysts here, maybe in one building, right? QAs maybe in different building, and then the execution happens in India or maybe some other country. Testing phase. So you document, you hand it over to somebody. Now, if you don't have tool like DevOps or Jira or ALM, then how would you communicate back and forth? You cannot, right? It's not practical with the team as big as like 100 people working in the team. You can't run that. You cannot send it in the email, all these documents and so forth. So what they do is business analysts will document the user stories or requirements in the tool. You create your stuff, means like test cases tied to the requirement in the tool. And then when it comes to the execution, somebody in India can log into the tool and they will start executing, follow your steps one by one and capture the results, create the defects, everything happens in the tool. Okay, that's why people are using the tools. Increases the productivity, communication, collaboration, all those stuff. Okay. All right. So that's the purpose. Now here, as I said, performance testing has more tools here, right? So you have load runner and JMeter. These are performance testing tools. Okay, load runner and JMeter specifically for performance testing. Okay, we're not going to cover that. As I said, these are specialized skill sets. But if you are interested, I can point you to the videos where you can watch it. These are not free tools. Okay, load runner and so forth. JMeter is free.
With all tools, only for the automation or also for the manual testing?
No, automation, specifically Catalan,
Catalan,
Ruby Cucumber, Water Selenium. You have UFT. There are plenty of tools in the market. Okay. But what we are covering is a Catalan, and we'll get you overview of the Ruby Cucumber. Overview. Because you need Ruby programming knowledge, you don't have it. So, but we will give you the kind of like a 1,000-foot view of what this technology looks like. But you will get a lot of hands-on on Catalan, so that you can create the automation test and automate some of the test cases.
and for the manual testing, we use like Azure and Zira and all. this.
Whatever you are doing is manual testing.
Okay.
Okay, whatever you're doing, these are tools for software development lifecycle management, SDLC. Remember, we went over cycle. You can manage through using this DevOps or Jira or ALM. Okay, ALM's full name is Application Lifecycle Management. Okay, that's the full name of the tool. You can create project schedule, do some type of reports and so forth. You see, measure the progress and all kind of things in the tool. Okay, any question here?
Yeah, I have one question.
Yes,
Like,
sir.
how is the development environment different from test environment? Like, are they something like clone, or what benefit we get and what benefit the developer get in their environment?
Yeah, so developers environment is more like a sandbox, right? So they are developing it and deploying it continuously, maybe 5 times a day, who knows, as soon as they are ready to build basically the code. So the developers are continuously checking in and checking out their code as well in the development environment. So it's not stable. What I mean to say is it's not stable environment because somebody is continuously updating their code in there. Test environment, once they complete the integration testing, they will give you the test environment and you might get the test code every week or every few days. Okay, now infrastructure wise, test environment is a little bit more powerful than the development environment. So it might be similar to the production, may not be similar, but test the development environment typically has a one server, single server, but the test environment might have a load balance servers so that you can actually see the better performance and so forth. So there will be a little bit different in the infrastructure.
Mhm.
Because you as a QA, you need some stable code, right, to test against. If it's continuously changing, then you don't know what test cases works today and what doesn't work tomorrow.
Mhm.
That's the only difference. I mean, that is not much difference. Now, production servers are, okay, again, in order to handle 5,000 users, you might have some more hardware basically in production to support that. Now, how do they know what hardware is needed? They run through the performance tests in the UAT or support environments or performance testing environment, and they will simulate 500 users to see if production will handle it or not. Okay. If the production, if they see issues, that means they will beef up the production environment. They will have more RAM, more memory, more processor, and so forth. Okay. Any other question?
So let's just getting the idea of Ruby to come
In
Just
this
over-
class, yes, we have a different camp, right? Because you need the programming background. So that's how we will give you overview of what the Cucumber, you will get hands-on on the Cucumber. But Cucumber has so many variations. We have like a 2 full session dedicated on the Cucumber in the camp. Basically different camp. Then you have Water and Selenium. These are again technologies. So it requires a coding basically. So it's not for everybody. But if you are interested, we have a different camp dedicated for 1 full month. Okay. All right. If you don't have any questions, then let's move on. Okay, so you guys understood the defect life cycle, right? I think I'm not gonna go over this. You can read on it, but I have it here. Let me see. Okay, I want to talk the Agile framework. Before we dive into the tools, because all these tools that we talked about, specifically Azure DevOps and Jira, they are built for the Agile framework, Scrum framework. Okay, Agile, Scrum, you're gonna hear all these terminologies. These tools are built on these frameworks. I think you guys understand conceptually Agile, 2 to 3 weeks iteration. You repeat the same life cycle, right? This SDLC over 2 to 3 weeks and deliver the product. Now, this view here talks about what happens over between 2 and 3 weeks, right? Or what happens within 1 iteration. That's the view in this diagram here. Okay. So assume you are developing a loan calculator. Let's talk about loan calculator feature. Now, how does it work in the Agile? So what you have is a more like a waterfall document. Okay, so this one is after 2 months, they give you they collected all the requirements and they give you business sign off document from the business. That's what you have. Waterfall type of document. Okay. It's not an agile process document or agile based type of requirements. What you have is a requirement wise Airflow requirement, right? It's a waterfall requirements document. But in Agile, if we have to build the same feature, what would happen here, right? So generally, in the Agile world, let me give you a little bit of overview of what these roles are and what they do. So you see the product owner here, right? So the product owner is nothing but business. It could be a business, it could be the business analyst takes on role as well of the product owner. But what these guys are responsible for is working with the stakeholders, okay, and collecting all these different types of requirements. So you see requirement 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, or they collect everything, and their job is to continuously refine the requirements, and they will create it in the tool like DevOps. Okay, so all these requirements that you see in the tool, they can document this as part of the user stories. What is user story? They're nothing but the requirement. Okay, but in the Agile world, they call every requirement a user story. Okay, it tells a story about how these requirements will be implemented and so forth. And I'll walk you through in the tool, but I just want to understand the terminology. User story, it's nothing but a requirement. Okay, so these guys are that's what these guys do, either BA or product owner, whatever you call it. They will keep documenting those requirements as part of the stories in the tool like Azure DevOps or Jira. Okay, so they have a running list of all these user stories, which is called product backlog. So if you don't remember all the term, which is fine, but I'm giving you some idea about what is product backlog. It's nothing but running list of all the stories they documented in the tool like DevOps or Jira.
So that means all the requirements are there.
Yeah, all the requirements. So requirement 1.2, just imagine if I'm inputting in the tool, I will have something called managed lender, right? And I have all 20 requirements tied to that. I'm gonna keep putting as a part of the stories. So one story, one requirement, one story, one requirement. They are small enough requirement. So kind of like a dealer can, what is that? If you go back to the requirements, right? Lender search by lender name, that can become one story. That is one piece of functionality, basically, that they will implement. Just go ahead.
They add any requirements to the backlog?
Yeah, they continuously keep on adding. It's not tied to 2 to 3 weeks. Okay, because this guy's role is to collect the requirement from the stakeholders. So they might continuously keep on collecting the requirement, keep adding to the list of the requirements or the user stories, and it becomes the product backlog. Okay, so Agile is more about product. So this guy, over 1 year, this guy collect 500 requirements. It will create 500 stories in there. So it's not dependent on the cycle, 2 to 3 week cycle. Okay, for Agile. Now 2 to 3 week cycle that we talked about, it starts. So it starts from here. This process happens outside the cycle, 2 to 3 week cycle. Okay, so assuming we are ready to implement load calculator. Okay, out of this, whatever he already collected all the requirements or stories. So what happens is on Monday, these guys will, the team will meet. Okay, every Monday. So let's see if I can ping it here. So this part, right? So this is on, let's say it's a Monday. Okay, and this cycle ends 2 weeks Friday. So Friday after 2 weeks. Okay. So this thing. Okay. So it starts on Monday. So all these activities happens from here to here between 2 weeks. Okay. So every Monday, the team meets, developers, BAs, whatever QAs, all those people, and generally product owner is also part of it because he knows what's there, and he prioritizes all these requirements, what needs to be done first, what is second. So he meets with the team, and team will say, okay, within 2 weeks we can implement loan calculator only. So we'll pull in that story to work on it over next 2 weeks. Okay, so they typically do that in the sprint planning meeting. Okay, so that the whole activity happens in the sprint planning meeting. They say, oh, loan calculator has 4 stories that ties to as part of the loan calculation, right? And so they will say, we'll work on those 4 stories over next 2 weeks.
So sprint is not working on one requirement. It can be more than one.
More than one story, yes. Typically, it's more than one story.
One story.
You don't pull in 50 stories because unless you have a very big development team, you cannot handle it.
Because it's a small chunk.
Yeah, small chunk of functionality. Think it that, right? That's all you are doing. So in the sprint, we pull in 4 stories right here, and it becomes part of our sprint backlog. So that 4 stories we're gonna focus on, and we'll deliver. So it becomes a sprint backlog, 2 weeks backlog item. So product backlog, now it's a sprint backlog. Okay. Now here on the same day, right? Monday, we are still on Monday. We create a sprint backlog. What the team does is typically they create a task. So you are sitting on the table, you are developers are sitting on there. So you have a QA task, right? You have to create your own stuff, right? So you will create your own task, quality assurance or test case, whatever. So you estimate it at a high level as well and create your own task here. Developers say, oh, in order to do that, we need a database, we need a web page design and all those things. And so they will create the development task, whatever activities they will do. But everything happens in the tool. So they will in the DevOps, and I'll show you where do they create it and how it works in the tool. But again, they will do the tools, task breakout and everything. Then after that, they will start coding all these 4 stories one by one. While they are coding, you are doing your activity, creating your test cases, breaking down the stories, all this SDLC process, right? Same thing. Now, if you have a question, right, on the requirement of something not clear to you, you will tell them right in the sprint planning meeting, hey, we need more information. And the product owner will clarify on day 1 for you. Because he's a business, he knows everything, right? So he can clarify for you. Okay, so this one, let's say, assume this one is a Tuesday, 2nd week. Sorry, can you guys see it? So this is a Tuesday of the 2nd week. So developers delivers you code on Tuesday. So you got 3 days to test. Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, right? Because our sprint ends on Friday. Okay. So you have all the planning, you have created your test cases, test scenarios, all those things documented in the tool. Now you are ready to execute on Tuesday. So they will put a code on the test environment, and you will have that. So you will execute, and if you find a defect, you report the defect on Wednesday. Hey, this thing doesn't work. Please go check it. The developer will fix it again. Maybe they deliver the solid code on Thursday, and everything passes. You give it to the business after. So business will do UAT. Basically, it's a small piece, right? So you don't spend much time on some of the activities. Okay. Now, sometime in the Agile world, you as a QA, and generally that's where the test automation comes in the picture as well. Because Ruby Cucumber is heavily focused on Agile processes. So you are writing the test cases, documenting in the tools, as well as you are writing your script as well, automation script. Okay. But again, you need a working code to execute. So you have to wait for till the code comes in. Okay. Now, if everything looks good and user acceptance happens, then you release it on Friday night or whatever timing that you have. Okay. So this is the inside view of what happens between 2 weeks, what's the process, and so forth. Okay. Now let's talk about a couple of other roles. So there is a role called Scrum Master, who is nothing but more like a PM. He's not a PM, but in the Agile, it's called Scrum Master. And his job is to remove any roadblocks. So if you are running into issue and you are not getting your answer, you need some clarification, and product owner is not responding to you, he will say, hey, guy, please respond, because this guy can't deliver their work otherwise. So he will reach out to whoever it needs to. He will reach out to the stakeholders, figure out whatever it is. That's all his role is.
So he's like a,
He's like a PM in the Agile world. Okay, think it that way.
so not for the sprint team, right?
No, it is for the sprint team.
Only
Sprint,
for the
yeah, sprint team, yep. Yeah, he's generally a Scrum Master role is typically a part-time role. I mean, they work on multiple sprints, multiple teams as well. Because I might have 3 sprints going on and they are managing all 3.
Oh,
Not managing, I mean, generally it's a self-running team. Okay, they don't have to manage, but if the issues or roadblock comes on, they will say, yep, let me figure out the issue so that you can continue moving.
so under Scrum Master, that there will be like couple of sprint teams.
Yeah, not under, I mean, there is no hierarchy, reporting structure, but he might be working on multiple sprints with the different teams.
It's a more of a coaching.
Yeah, coaching role.
Oh.
Coaching, roadblock, removal, whatever. Yep, somebody has to do that dirty work, right? Because you are focused so on your task, you cannot do all these activities. So they have somebody dedicated doing that, those type of work. Okay. Now, in the Scrum, right? How does the people report progress? Because if you slip a day, that means your whole activities will be delayed by the day. You cannot deliver the work by Tuesday. That means this thing sprint is in trouble, right? So what they do is typically they meet daily for 15 minutes in the morning. So 9 a.m. to 9:15 p.m., whatever time agreed upon with the team. And as part of this team, you see different roles, right? This is the team. You also have product owner here. You also have Scrum Master, generally may or may not be there, but Scrum Master is there, QAs, BAs, everybody's there. So you report on your tasks. Are there any issues? Are there any roadblocks? Do you need anything? And it's generally 15 minutes only. And then you move on. Everybody gets back to work. It's called daily Scrum meeting. Okay, that is daily Scrum meeting over there. So it happens every 24 hours, right? Every 24 hours and so forth. The important parts, sprint end date and team deliverable does not change. As I said, end date is fixed. Friday has to be delivered. Now, for someone forcing reasons you can't deliver, you still mark it as complete, move the task or that carry you the story. It's again different ways to handle it. But you move the story to the next iteration or next sprint. Okay. But generally that shouldn't happen because you want to know why it happened, why we cannot deliver all 5 stories. Okay. So what they do at end of the sprint on Fridays, because your Friday is a completion, right? And let's say you had some issues that you faced. So what they do is they do the sprint review every 2 weeks at end of every sprint. What went wrong? How can we improve? And so forth. Those are the things you discuss and say next sprint we'll implement this change. That's part of the sprint review. Actually, this is sprint review is with the customer. Okay, sprint retrospective I was talking about. That is sprint retrospective. You inspect what went wrong, what is good or not, and how can we improve. That's the retrospective. Okay, Sprint review. You are demoing the product to the customer. Okay, you're actually showing, hey, this load calculator feature to the customer. Every whole team sits with the customer. Okay, customer meaning stakeholders or business, whoever it is, and they will walk them through. This is how it works. Load calculator. If you input 1,000, it's getting 30. Okay, and they will say yes, no, yep, it looks good, and they will do the UAT for maybe a couple of hours and send it out to the production. Okay. Any question? Okay, so stories, right? You guys understand the stories? What the stories? Because we're gonna create few in the tool. We have tasks. We will not do the task activities. Okay, that generally developer team will does that. Break down every story. In order to implement this story, I have to create database item, database component. I have to write the code. I have to create a business layer, all this design type of thing, activities. So you will not typically create a task, but again, depends on the company. Okay.
It's not task about testing whatever.
No. Yeah. Now, but you will create your test cases, right? That's something you have to document as part of the stories. Okay, and I'll show you in the tool how you can do that. And then once it's documented on Tuesday, when the time comes, you have to execute your test cases. So you're gonna do that in the tool itself. You have to create defects assigned to the developers. So you have to do that in the tool. So we'll talk that today, basically, how you can manage the whole sprint or SDLC within the Agile, using the Agile framework. But this is the process. Hopefully this gives you idea about what happens. Any question on this process?
There is another over there, bomb down chart. I'm thinking it depends on the sprint.
So no, it's not dependent on that. So what the burn down chart is, let's say you have a developer created this task here, right? They say, okay, well, this story has 3 different tasks: database, web development, and some other. Then the second story has another task. So they will do on the daily reporting, right? Daily meeting, Scrum meeting. They will say, oh, I completed this task. So they will move on from active to completed.
Okay.
So that you can continue, you can do your testing. Okay, so that could happen as well. So that's what the burn down chart shows. So it starts out and then it shows, okay, how many hours we have left in the sprint for the development activities. Okay, so heavily focused on the development activities.
The progress.
Yeah, progress. It's more like a progress report. So you had the yeah, you can think it that way. It's a progress report. Yeah. Yeah, because somebody has to measure, right? But the Scrum Master will not do that. It's a team. They will measure the progress themselves and see, oh, where we are, can we deliver it or not? They will figure it out, looking at the burn down. Plus, management also is interested as well, right? I mean, the stakeholders.
Real quick, you said the Scrum Master is not a project manager, but the project manager can be Scrum Master?
It can be, but it's a different activities they do, right? Typically PM in the waterfall, they have scheduling, they do all kind of different activities, right?
Gotcha.
And here it's a team is a self-running unit. Means that they take the ownership here, the team, for delivery. Scrum Master is just helping them to focus on the delivery side of things as well as roadblocks and those things, but nothing else. So they don't define the schedules. Team defines the schedule here.
They don't hold any higher position over.
No, there's
Okay,
no higher.
okay.
Yeah, they're just a different activity.
Gotcha.
Everybody's part of the team, basically.
And they play a role with the product owner also.
Yeah.
Closely working with product owner, making sure that the priority of the work is completed in the time.
Right. Yep, they work closely with the product owner as well. Yep, that's right. Okay. All right, so So as part of the Agile, right, in the tool, now we will go in the tool. So you're gonna see certain things. I just want to get you some idea what those things will be. So you're gonna see Scrum board, storyboard. Okay, this is nothing but the product backlog. Okay, Scrum board, storyboard.
Like how you are arranging your user story and everything.
Yeah, it's just a list of those things, but in a nice graphical user interface format. Okay, and I'll show you what it looks like. So you will have product backlog, right? Then you have sprint backlog. Okay, so you have sprint backlog. It just says backlog here, but it's really a sprint backlog. Okay, sprint iteration, development cycles. Now this one is kind of like a 2 weeks, right? So we are saying it starts on Monday, September 1, and it ends on September 14. So that's a cycle, sprint cycle. So it just says iteration or development cycle. So it will have some date, when it starts, when it ends. You will have user story or requirement, right? And I'll show you what it looks like, user story. Now, user story here, it can be as detailed as they want. So they can actually put a screen markup and do all those kind of things, okay? But we will start with a simple one because that's not what we do, right? We will do the QA activities. So as part of your activity, you will have the test cases tied to the stories. Okay, and the tasks are for the development activities, so you don't we don't worry about that. Yeah, now there is a one more higher level thing. Okay, here. So there is one more concept called epic. So epic is what? Nothing but the module. Remember, we call the module. So in the tool, we can define an epic and tie all the relevant stories under that epic. Okay. So there is a thing called module, right? You can create an epic and put all your stories under that epic. So that you can see where this requirement belongs or where this story belongs. What
like,
feature?
Like the module name and.
Yep, that's right. Yep,
Like that.
Yep, that's correct. That's how you can group it. Epic is generally a little bit bigger, so if your epic, you can create this way, or if epic you can define this way. So this could be our flow. Okay, epic is our flow, big thing, and then you can create a feature. There is a thing called feature. So feature can be load calculator. But again, how you define the structure, it's up to you. Generally, the company varies by company and how big the project is, or how big what is the, and then you have all the stories tied to the feature. We're not going to worry about those things, but I'm just giving you some idea. We will strictly talk about stories because that's where your activities will start.
So if there is a more module, so you do epic one, epic two,
Epic,
like that.
yeah, epic. Then you have feature as well. There is one more level. Again, I'm not going to get into those different things. It depends, varies by company, project, how they configure the DevOps and all those things. So, but there is a way to group it. I'm just letting you know. Okay. All right, so I think we have enough theory for today. So let's actually dive into the tool and see it. So I don't want you to touch the computer right now. Okay, let's by the way, everybody has account created, right? Because otherwise you have to tag along with somebody if you don't have account created. Yeah, the Outlook account. Did you create Outlook account? Okay, work with the next person. Then I want you to work through that process. Okay. Oh, let me show you one more view here. Okay, so ultimately, this is one example of a storyboard. Okay, this is what the storyboard will look like. The storyboard, remember I said that there is a storyboard here, Agile Scrum, Scrum board, storyboard, product backlog, whatever. This is what it typically looks like. These are nothing but the requirements, print receipt, refund. So then this is what this says is, it's if it's if the people are working on it, right? They move on from here to, okay, waiting for analysis, waiting for this development, waiting for testing to be done, all these things. So if you are done, then you move into the next phase. Okay, something similar to this. Again, everybody configures differently. So this tool, this thing may not look like when you actually log into the tool, because ours will be default, whatever we have it default in the tool. But ultimately, what the done column is very important. If you are done implementing, coding is done, QA is done, everything is done, you move it to the done column, so that you don't work on the story or feature. You move on to the next thing, next to it. But this shows the progress, right? So if you are done at 9 o'clock, right, you move this story from here to the development. Hey, it's ready for development. Then when the developers are done, they will move it to, hey, it's ready for testing. Then they are done, you are done, then you say, yep, the whole thing is done. Okay, so it shows the progress as well. Okay. All right. Any question on anything we discussed today? All right, I know you guys are excited about actually getting some work done. So, all right. So I'm assuming you guys all have the Outlook account, right? So what we can do is I'll show you some basic things here. Just to watch it, and I'll let you guys work through. The way it works is I'll show something. You guys will complete that on your own, and then I'll show you additional features and those things. Okay. So devops.azure.com. This is the site. Okay. devops.azure.com. Okay. So all of you will end up over here. devops.azure.com. As I said, if you don't have account, you can't log in, cannot use this tool. You need a Microsoft account, whether it's Outlook or Hotmail or Live or anything else. Gmail, I don't think Gmail works unless they add it. Okay. All right. So let's pay attention here. Otherwise, you're gonna struggle. Okay. So let's just pay attention here. I want you to follow the. I'll give you time. Okay. So you will work through it. Okay. So on this side, there is a thing called Start Free. We don't want to pay anything, right? So I think this is, we love it. Start free. Okay. So I guess I'm already logged in with somebody. So let me open a different one. So I'm going to open Chrome. And let me go to the Chrome. I never knew it's asked for this thing. Okay. All right. Okay, so I'm going back to the site here. devops.azure.com. Okay, start free. All right, so it will prompt you for login. And I just created one account yesterday myself. So Intelix QA September 2022 at outlook.com. Okay, so this is the account I created. So I'm going to just pay attention here. What I said, you will get a chance afterwards. Okay, otherwise you will not know what to do. Okay. Okay, so here I'm going to click next. Obviously, you have to log in, so I'm going to put my password. Make sure, hopefully, you guys remember whatever account you created. And I'll say save, stay signed in, whatever. Yep, yes. Okay, so this is a first time prompt. Okay, this one will happen only first time. So here, get started with Azure DevOps, right? This is a country. Okay, that's good. You don't have to change anything here. Okay, Next. And name your organization, leave whatever is default. You don't have to change anything. Okay. Projects in Central US, who cares where my project resides, right? Everything is in the cloud on the Microsoft website. So I don't really care. What I care is I need to enter MYDG here. That's all I need. Okay, so first thing it will do is it will ask you to create a project. Now in the organization, when you are working for a company, you do not have to go through this project creation process. They will create it for you because you are not administrator of this thing. But here, you have to create this one time and you are good. Now this project, right? So there are a couple of things here. First of all, project name has to be unique globally. So there are millions of people accessing this site. If you create the same project name, it might conflict. So what I would suggest is do rflown and put your name, partial P or and whatever the date, today's date. So it will make it unique, some unique project name. Okay, something like that. Again, if you get an error, make sure you put the right project name. Second thing, this is a public and private. If you right now it's disabled, so you can't do much anything. Let's see here. Yeah, so you cannot do much. So I'm just all I can do is click on create project. Looks like. I think it will create an issue for us. So I think we might have to do some other tweak. Why don't you guys come to the screen and I'll wait for you guys here. Okay. Let's log in. And if you did not create an account, go ahead and create it. If you can create the Outlook account. You can use that laptop. Yeah, you can use it. You actually, why don't you move it there? Yeah, just move it there because if you take out plug, I think there is a battery issue with that. So online folks, just come to this screen and stay on this screen. Okay. So dev.azure.com, okay, that's the website, devops.azure.com. I'm going to leave this site here. And stay on that screen, okay? Yes, David. Oh, no, go ahead, ask me a question.
Actually, I already did the extension. So I did the project.
Just stay on the screen. No, just stay on the screen. It's fine. You already have a project, which is okay.
Okay, you want me to change it to?
No, you can't leave it there. We'll create a brand new project here. Okay, we have to follow different route.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the same password as the other one. Dilip, it's HARIPAT15, H capital.
Yeah.
Online folks, I'm assuming you guys are creating.
Yes, I'm at the same page as yours. Do you want us to put a name, anything for project name or random name?
Just stay there. I mean, you can create put anything that's unique because it will ask you to create a unique project.
Gotcha.
You need Outlook account.
Do you have also?
Yeah, go and create Outlook account. You want to? Oh, it's coming up. I have the URL devops.azure.com. Follow the URL that I have. Okay. Yeah, give me a second. I have this URL up here. This is the URL that you have. Make sure you type in exactly same. If you are getting error or something, then something else going on. Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. Yeah, put something unique, okay? With the project name.
Hello,
Yeah, Judy.
project name, I can name it anything. Need not have to be what you have given, right?
Oh, just create, put your name there.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, leave it there. You don't have to change anything. Yep, you're good. You're there. All right. It's loading for you. Yeah. Blue day off. No, this is not a backup. This is in the cloud. Yeah, it's in the cloud. Yeah. That's the from home.
Yes.
Just create something unique. Put your name, Archana, and then Arflon, and that's all.
Do I write down or anywhere?
No, you don't have to write down project. Yeah. You loading? Oh, you're not? It's not 15 seconds. Okay. Oh, that's fine. Give it new day. Don't worry about it. Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, ALM or it's very fluid, it's automated. Yep, yep, you need to be on the screen. Don't worry about too much. If you can't screw up anything, okay? It will be perfectly fine. So just keep moving.
So it's welcome to the project page, right?
Yep, this page, you should be on this page.
So do I need to do another one?
Well, you stay on this page.
No, the thing is, I did yesterday like.
So I think you're on the right page. You're on the right page. Yep, just stay there.
Harshal, I did create project.
It is fine. Just stay on this page. Yeah, it should be okay, Judy. Are you on this page? That's fine. Just stay on this page. You will still be on this page. Okay, just show the project on the right side. That's all.
Unbelievable.
All right, everybody. Let me check in the class who is still working through it. Okay, so a couple of folks. I'll give you guys a couple of minutes. Okay.
My screen is actually different.
That's okay. It's perfectly fine. I mean, they might have minor things. Hopefully, it's the same for everybody else. Let's see. You go back to your screen.
Actually, when you use that one, group one.
No, not in the Outlook. No, this is not in the Outlook. Nothing to do with the Outlook. Yeah, you should be.
Yeah, I create a project. Is it okay?
Yeah. I mean, just stay on this thing because we're gonna create a new project anyway. Okay.
Don't create a
So-
project.
Don't create a project yet because what it does is it creates a different type of project, okay? So I want you to create a Scrum project. We don't get an option when you create a project first time. But when you project second time, you will get an option.
So if I had clicked it already, what do I do, Arshal? Like,
Just stay on this, click here, right? Intelix, QA, whatever is there. And it will take you back to the project area, right here. That's all. Just stay here.
Oh, I already created, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, don't worry. You will create a second one, okay? If you already created something, you will create a second one.
Okay, thank you.
All right, is everybody good? Everybody on the screen? On the first page? Okay, still trying to load it out. Okay, so maybe he can tag along with him here, because we're gonna move on. Yes, Asmita. Did you do DevOps.azure.com and working through the process? That's okay. Just whatever account, if it's working, are you on the screen? That's the only thing matters. Account is not important. Are you using your work laptop? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, Harshal, I'm trying to, okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're there.
It looks like she need to open another account and whenever she's
Go
going
ahead.
inside, it's pulling her college account.
I know you need to sign out and sign in. If you have a different browser, then use the Chrome. If you have Edge, yeah. Yeah, just log out. I mean, that should be okay, because if you are using work laptop or something else, it might automatically log you in with certain accounts. All right, for interest of time, we got a lot of things to catch up. So Rasmita, what I would suggest is you work with her and I'll get you, when we stop next time, I'll log you in. I'll configure everything on yours.
Hi, I think by mistake I hit the create project.
That's okay. That's okay, Nitin. Okay, just stay where you are on the screen. That should be fine. All right, Seva, let's come back. Rasmita, why don't you work with her for now? I'll hook up when we take a next break, right? Which is another 15 minutes, okay? And you can work through it at that point, okay? It should be fine. This is, as I said, you're not gonna do that in the real life, so let's not worry about it, okay? But here, so what I what I'm doing is, let's just pay attention here, okay? Let's pay attention, and then you can work through afterwards. So this is, hopefully you guys can see this link here, right? So I'm just clicking on that. For me, since I don't have any project, so it's prompting me directly. But since if you already have a project, then you're gonna see another create project type of thing. Okay, and you can click on it. So here, I'm just typing it again, what a project I have. P09/11/2022. Okay, description, we don't care. Okay, private visibility, but important part is here, advanced. Okay, so advanced, I will not change anything here. It doesn't matter for you guys, but the work item, this is important. This is by default, it is basic. You want to select Scrum because we are working on a Scrum type of project. Okay, so I need you to select Scrum and then click on create project. So this part is important, right? Select Scrum project. If you do CMMI, Agile or something else, it will have little bit different look and feel and task creation. Not much changes, but Scrum, that's where we can create the stories and so forth. Okay, so make sure you select Scrum and then create project. Okay, for me, it's saying things not found. So let's see. Go back home. Let's see if it created anything. Okay, so it is still created for me, the project. And now I can access the project. Okay, so now if I click on this project, it will take me to the some type of board view and so forth. But make sure you are in the Scrum project, okay, not the other one. And if you have multiple projects, I can go back here and I should be able to delete the project here from here somewhere. Maybe I need to go here and delete from the organization settings. But let's not worry about deleting anything here. Okay, so I'm here. Now, where do I go, right? Because our important part is what do I do? What activities we need to do? So let's focus on here, okay? So the board, remember the board, it starts with the board. This is where you're gonna see the board. Okay, so if I click on this board here, and I have to click on this board. So it will take me to product backlog. This is a list of all the stories. List of all the stories that is in my tool or in the DevOps. Right now, nothing is there because I have not created any user stories here. Who creates the user stories? On the project, who's supposed to create? Product owner, right? Or business analyst. You will not do stories. But here, since we don't have any stories, we will put a few stories. Okay. So what I'm going to do is, I have our test cases here, right? And what I can do is, okay, I don't want this guy. Okay. See if I can copy paste. If not, I'll just type it in. The way you can create stories, click on this plus sign, new item, right? These all are stories here. So I can create it as simple as from the board, new product backlog item. If you do bug, it's a bug, defect. Okay, so you don't want to create that. So make sure you create a new product backlog item. And I'm just going to type it in right there. Area manager can create following user types: dealer user, or friend user. So my story is created at this point. Now, if I want to see more things, right? If I want to add more details about the story, I can click on this link as soon as it's created, and then I can go in more details. And then it will pop up this type of box. And this is where I can add more details. What is the description looks like? Generally, they will add more description here, acceptance criteria here, and so forth. Now remember, we talked about reviewing, right? So you guys, once they create it, they will ask you to review the story. So how do you provide feedback? Right, the QA, because 5 people are reviewing it. So if something is not clear to you, you can say, this, please clarify. Do they need, can they create any additional users? Okay, so I can do that. I can do save and close or click save. When I go back next time, I'll see my comment right there. So the users, typically whoever is a owner of the story, they will get notified via email, basically. And right now it's unassigned, but let's say if it's assigned to me, I will typically get an email. And they will go and answer your comment or update the story based on your feedback. Yes. Right. So this is about the requirement or story. This is how typically business analysts or product owners, they put the information here. If there is a screenshot, they can simply do something like this. Let me put the screenshot here. So what I can do is I can open the snipping tool. Right? And I can say something like this. Let me just take a dummy screenshot. Okay, this is not the real, but I'm just going to take a dummy screenshot, copy it, and I come back to my story, put it in the description right there. Copy and paste it. So it shows up right there. So if I have a screen mockup, this is where it's used. Screen mockups, maybe sketches, because they do a lot of exercise, right? With the business, hey, this is how it's supposed to look. This is a mockup screen. They will associate with the stories. Okay, so when it comes to the development and QA, they know, okay, this is what it's supposed to look like, and so forth. So you can put it here. You can add more details, ABC, XYZ, whatever you need. You can keep on going. Okay, they can add as much detail as they want for the story. So that's the one story. If I have to repeat this process for a different story, let's say need ability to calculate loan payment based on predefined calculation, right? So I'll create a new item, product backlog item, loan payment, monthly loan payment based on monthly loan amount and predefined calculation. Okay, so this is my story. I can say calculation, monthly loan amount is equal to 3% loan amount. Okay, so this is my calculation. This is additional details I provided in the story, right? And I'm gonna save and close, and it's all good.
So description is a little more about the story, right?
What is it?
So the description is you're giving the.
Yeah.
details.
So it can be anything. You can put screenshots. You can add any supplemental information you want to clarify in the story. You can add anything in the story. It could be any diagram. They drew up the process diagram as well. Anything in the story. Only if it's needed. If you don't need it, then you don't put it. But generally, when you talk about stories, they will provide additional details in their stories. Okay. But for now, we're gonna keep it simple. We're just gonna put whatever requirement we have, and we're just gonna type that in. That's all you guys need to do from our standpoint. Right. Now, this is what the business analyst does or product owner. So when this story comes from sprint backlog, you need to add your test cases, right, in the particular sprint. So how do you add your test cases? That's the important part, right? So every story, if you play around with the story here, so I see these 3 dots. So there are a couple of things, right? So there is something here. If I do that, actually this one is unassigned, so I can assign something, right, to somebody. But this part is important. Get these 3 dots. There is an add task. Now, what is the task about?
For the.
Development
For the
activities,
developments, yeah.
right? Typically development activities, and they will say, okay, add task, web component I need to create, or database component, whatever they come up with. But you will typically will not do that. Okay, you will focus on add test. So if you see different screen, you might be on the wrong item. Okay, and I think you're gonna come across that. I'm sure you guys will ask me a question, why my story, where is my test case? Okay, that's a very common mistake people make. Yep. So where can I add my test? I can add my test here. Okay, so as soon as I click on it, it will do the box here, right? So what is my scenario here? What are our scenarios? You guys remember it for the loan calculator? You guys just did it on Thursday. We just did it on Thursday, right? You guys forgot already. What are our scenarios here? How many scenarios we have?
It was about
Predefined calculation, yeah.
What
Valid-
scenario?
Valid data, numeric quantity
Okay.
greater than 0.
So calculate loan, monthly loan amount with valid loan amount. Well, monthly loan payment
Better than equal to 0.
with valid loan amount greater than or equal to 0. Okay, that is what we are calling valid. Okay, so that's my first scenario. What is my second scenario?
Invalid, alphanumeric,
Okay, so calculate monthly loan payment with invalid loan amount less than or equal to 0 or less than 0, right? Because
negative 1.
okay, calculate monthly loan payment with invalid loan amount alphanumeric,
The last one is no data.
and calculate monthly loan payment with no data.
Yeah.
No monthly, well, no loan amount, no loan amount,
No amount.
right? So these are my 4 scenarios. And I can see I associated with them. So let's see if I refresh it. See what happens, right? So I'm just refreshing the page. Okay, so I don't say anything here, but you guys see this icon? It says 4 test items. So if I click on it, I should see my 4 things.
So when you're writing it, automatically saves into it.
Yes, yeah. Well, when you're writing in that box,
Mhm.
okay, but we haven't wrote anything. We just added the scenarios,
Mhm.
high level test cases. That's all. We haven't added any details here. Right? So let's talk about where do I go and add more details? Actual test case details, right? These are scenarios. So you click on this link again. And now you can see it here. So it says the status is designed, right? It's assigned to me. If you have multiple team members, somebody else is working on it, which is fine. But this is where you will be adding your steps. Okay, so here insert step, that's important. You can remove the step by removing anything. So now you can follow your own instruction here. Whatever you wrote on piece of paper, you can copy paste it or you can just type it in. Let me just create one here. So what is my first step?
Homepage and
Go to Airflow by entering URL Airflow.Azure websites.net.
there is no data section also.
Generally, the tools will not have separate data section, but you can put it in the step, or you can put it as an attachment, or you can put it in the description. I would prefer to put it in the step because when you execute it, you will see right there. Okay, all the data that you need. Let me show you here one more. You can actually do the attachment right within the step.
If you have so much.
Yeah, so you have attachment here within the step. So you can just attach the file, Excel spreadsheet, right with for the step, for the test data. Okay, what my expected result? I am on Airflow homepage, right? So this is my expected step. And let's insert new step. And I can go down. Yep. So we'll get rid of this guy because I added wrong step. So I'm going to delete it. Come back to the second. Okay. Enter what credentials? Dealer credential.
Login credentials.
G training. Okay. And click login and login. I am on dealer homepage.
So do you have to write I am on there?
You know, it's again different way. You can write it. You are on different homepage, but I generally put I am on dealer homepage. Okay. Everybody writes differently. Whatever language you use, you can put it in as long as it's in English.
It's easy. It's easy.
Okay, then what? What is my next step? Access loan calculator.
Yeah.
Now I'm writing here access loan calculator. You can say click on loan calculator to access loan calculator. However you want to write it. Okay. I am on loan calculator page. Okay. What is my fourth step? Now remember, this is a calculate monthly loan payment with valid loan amount greater than 0. Well, what is valid? So you want to be specific, right? What are you testing? Enter 1,000 as loan amount and click calculate. Okay, what is expected result?
$30.
Right, 30. So verify that 30 is displayed as a loan payment or loan amount, monthly loan payment
Monthly loan amount. Loan payment.
amount or payment, right? Okay, so at this point, my verification step is there and I'm good. Because that's what I'm writing my test case for, right? So do I have any other steps? I don't, right? So I'm just going, at this point, I'm done with the test case and I'm going to save it. And my test case documentation is done. Okay, now let me show you a couple of other things, right? Summary. This is where your test summary is. If you want to have put more details around your test summary, you have a test title and summary, right? You can add basically similar things. I can put same thing here, or add more details, whatever you want to add. Right? Associated automation. If there is automation, we're not going to worry about that. Okay. Let's come back here. Now, good thing about the tool is it automatically ties the test case with the requirement. So it automatically creates the traceability with the requirement. Okay. So I can run a report and I can see how many test cases are there, how many are executed. It has all different kind of status. Okay. And finally, if you have any additional attachment, you can always attach, click on attach file and you can whatever. QA activities, UFT topics, blah, 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 all kind of stuff. You can just do any attachment, open and attach it. So it will be attached right there. So at this point, I'm done. I'm going to do save and close. Okay. So at this point, I don't have anything. If I go back, I should see my 4 steps here. Okay. Any question on this process? It's a no-brainer, right? Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so just to reiterate, so they're just gonna already have have it on there, but we just go in and then create the steps that.
What already has it? Oh, here, this
Yeah,
thing?
like there is already gonna be on there for the project.
The only thing you will get is the story. Yes.
Yeah, the story will be already there, but we just go and then create the test.
This task.
Yeah.
And the details.
And the details.
Yep,
and stuff.
yep.
Okay.
Because these are test cases, right?
Okay.
Now, important part. If you don't know how to analyze the requirement, you cannot create the test cases, right? This is still, you need to be able to analyze the requirement, understand the business process, break down the requirement, and come up with the test cases. That's the very important part. As you can see, writing the details is no-brainer. Right here, creating the details is just a documentation. But important part is, do I know what to write here? This 4 piece, right? That's the important part. And then what steps that goes along with that? You still need to think it through because that's what you do, right? Then documentation is whether you use Jira or Azure DevOps, it doesn't really matter where you go and document it. Or write on a piece of paper. It's the same thing, right? Because you are just copying it, whatever you came up with. Right? But this part, breaking down the requirement is very important. That's why they pay you money for, right?
Also the precondition, post-condition.
Yes, so both precondition, post-condition, yep, that's a good point. So here, so generally, what is the precondition here, right? For this test case, dealer credential exists. Okay. Now in the tool, you don't have a way, specifically in Azure DevOps. In Jira, you will see a specific box for the precondition. But in DevOps, you don't have that. So what we do typically, we add one more step as just before the first step. And we add a precondition, we call it as a precondition. Type it in, and you actually put in dealer credential exists in the system. Okay, you don't put expected result. Okay, but this is the reason is that when you execute, this is the only piece of these are the only things that's going to be visible. Nothing else. You will not be able to see summary or anything else. These are the only things you will see when you execute a test case. Okay, so if I have post condition, I'll just say post condition and say here there shouldn't be any post condition. So, but you can say, yeah, whatever is there. Okay, so precondition, post condition, that way is it will be fine. Now precondition does not have expected result because this is precondition. Same thing, post condition.
So here there is no other area to write it. You just have to write it in the.
Yeah, right in the
steps.
steps, but you just mark it as a precondition.
Okay.
Yeah, type it in. Okay. All right. So let's do one thing. I'll let you guys go to the screen, create a story. Just create the same story. Don't calculate one. Okay. And create one test case or a couple of test cases that you have. And get familiar with this part. Then we'll come back and I'll get you guys roughly 45 minutes on this one if we need. Okay, max 45 minutes because we need to talk about execution part as well. Okay, how do you create defect and how do you go about it?
I have a question.
Yes.
So what will be the project name? What I should give your name? That one? What you
No,
should?
whatever name you want to give, I mean, it's fine. Put your name and put a date around it. As I said, it has to be unique globally. Globally meaning anywhere in the world. I think they will ask you to create unique name. So otherwise it will throw you an error. Hey, project already exists. Now you remember where we create a project. So you go back to this link here, right? Click on new project, type it in. Important part is select to the Scrum. So if you are on this screen, right, click on this here at the top. It will take you back to the project screen here. And then click on new project. Okay, and make important part is select from basic to Scrum. Is everybody good online?
I'm a little bit struggling with because I think I did something wrong when I create project.
Okay, go ahead and share your screen so that I can see it here.
Okay. Are you able to see, sir?
Yes, so what I want you to do is go and click on in the top left corner, right? You see Azure DevOps. No,
Okay.
Azure. Yeah, go to the Nitin Agarwal 03. Yep. So here, click on new project. click on new project on the right side.
Blue button.
Blue button. On the
View
right,
button.
blue button. Nathan.
Okay, just a second. I'm moving. Okay. It
New
was
project.
like, yeah.
Yep. All right, now type in the different project name, Artflown, and whatever you wanna give it. Again, has to be unique, so.
Not previous one, right? It should be new.
Yeah, you can't give the same name.
Okay.
Put some unique name.
So I think this is sufficient, right?
Yeah, and scroll down, go to the advanced. You see the advanced at the bottom, click on
Yes.
advanced.
Yep.
Yep, now select the from basic to the Scrum. Click on basic drop down. Scrum, select Scrum. Yep, now you create a project.
So version is
And
GIT.
don't worry about those things. Don't worry, you will never deal with that, so don't worry about it. That's for the developers.
Okay.
Okay, so make sure you remember to work on this project going forward, okay? So now you go to the boards. You see the board on the left, green? Board
Uh,
on the left side.
Yeah.
Yep. Nope, boards, yep.
Yep.
Yep, now you click on the boards again. You see the boards?
Yep. New
Yep.
item.
Yep, now you can continue working, right? Because now you know it, so. All right, new product backlog item and create a story. And then you
Okay.
will test case associated with it. All right, now you can stop sharing.
Right, sir. Thank you.
Is everybody good in the class? Moving along, what you got, Seva?
So I just finished creating it.
Okay.
Where do I go after that? Is it
Um,
the boards?
Yeah, boards and boards.
Boards, okay,
So there'll be boards within boards.
okay.
You go over there. And I'll go and explain a little bit further on the boards and what are the different things there.
Okay. And then just go ahead and. create
Yep,
it.
create new backlog item, yep. That's the story. So you guys are creating this story, okay? This is the one. I mean, you can, well, for homework, you will have other things to work through, so, yep. So did you create the test cases? You did? Yeah, you didn't? Yeah, make sure you create test cases as well, okay? So you should have 4 test cases, make sure you at least one detailed test case.
Yes. So you want to add more, then click on add test again, right?
Yep, that's correct, yep. At test, keep, so 3 dots, right?
Yeah.
Add test, yep, that's how you can add this test cases.
Then if you're adding one more, you have to click on that.
Yeah.
again.
Well, if you don't type it in, then it will not do anything. So make sure you type in something,
Oh, okay.
then only it will save it, okay? Yes. So now keep on adding, add test. Right?
Yeah.
And I'm going to remove it. Remove test, remove test. Yes. What's the issue? Yes, you're on the right place. So you just added new item, right? Yeah, that's where you add the store, need ability to create monthly load test. You have it in your homework as well, right? This is from the homework. All those 5 to 6 test cases that you had. Okay, I'm putting it there, zooming in a little bit.
If you want to like that, when you're writing, you give something like, you want to add some more in the word, so. how
Yeah, you just click on it.
that?
Yeah, click on it and then you can modify right here. Just change it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, whatever, dot, 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 I'm just adding, right? And then save and close and it will be added. It will be updated.
Thank you.
If you have time, go and create 2 test cases, put both test cases that you have, right? More details you will have, I mean, more test cases. You will get more practice on it. Yeah. So you now open the actual test case, right? Then you it will pop up. Yeah. Yep, that's where your test will go. Just roll it out, right? Because that's all you need, or then it's loaded. Make sure you save it, otherwise nothing will be saved. Yeah. I think you are in a different kind of project, but that's fine. See if you can see the, how you add it. No, that's fine, just leave it there. That's okay. Let it go. It takes a story, you will see, just see different things. Yeah. And I don't want you to go back and, but where are you doing at your test? Well, it's a valid load, invalid load, there are 4 different scenarios, right? 4 different tests.
So like my full like that I gone 2 times, because I can't hear.
No, there is a detail that you're not seeing.
You are not saying it shows only certain portion, certain characters. But it's alpha numeric, invalid load amount, all the things, right? So different ones. Don't just copy what I have because it doesn't show the full title. It shows that it chops off certain things.
You said you want us to like add another one from our tests.
Yeah, I mean, if you order, you should at least have 7, right, total. So if your time, I mean, go ahead and add one more so that you get more practice around it, right? So you might have to create a requirement or story related to the test case, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because you had typical, how many you had? 6 for the homework, and couple we discussed in the class,
Yeah.
different requirements, so, yeah. You can create a story for each. And then associate all the test cases.
So when I'm looking like boards again, it's.
Mhm.
It's going to a different screen. I mean, I'm guessing it's because. Oh, all right, can just click new item right there, right?
Yeah, it's a new item, right? Yep.
So I finish this, can we add the steps now?
Yeah, you don't wait for me. Yeah, you go ahead and add, you got 15 more minutes. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. Yeah, go ahead and add, select the first tab, right? You are in there. Go and use the different arrows at the top. Just above that. Nope. Yeah, just add it to the tab, right? You can add it and continue. So whatever is selected, whichever tab you are in, it will add before. Yeah. Yeah, go click on the test case, wherever you want to select, then you on it will open up a new window. That's what you add the tab. Make sure you will put the expected result as well. Okay. Your test case needs to have expected result.
And do that. Yeah.
Well, you need to have this, right? Without that, you cannot verify anything.
So when we are done, we have to just save and close.
Yeah, save and close, move on to the second one. Yep, if you have time, yep.
First step. No, you have.
So everybody has at least one. At least one created. Okay. All right, so you got 10 more minutes, so hopefully you guys can wrap up. Yep. No, you're adding a task. You're adding the wrong thing. You're supposed to add a test. You added a task. You're supposed to add a test. What?
Like the.
Yeah,
How to get the $90, or I can put it in the description.
Yeah, you can put it in summary, description, anywhere you want. Well,
And do I have to mention
So-
that in the step or not?
no, you don't, because requirement already includes the calculation,
Okay.
right? Because this requirement.
Yeah.
It already shows the calculation here, right?
Mhm.
So you don't need to repeat those things.
Oh.
This requirement, I have put a calculation. This is a predefined calculation
You can put it in the description. Okay.
Yeah. in the requirement,
In the requirement.
the user story.
Yes.
So you don't have to repeat that here in the test case.
Yes.
Is everybody good online? Online folks?
Yes, yes.
Okay. If you guys have time, go ahead and add one more test case. I think folks are still working in the class. Looks like another 10 minutes.
So you don't have to put the same, the dealer is logged in, you don't have to make him log out. Yeah, or it's very different.
Well, if you say log out, I mean, what value it will have for calculation, right? Calculation is calculation, so. Because your verification is that 30 is displayed and you are done. You verify that and you move on. You guys good?
No, I don't. How to, if we say row, like the state, if you have an extra row, they have
Yep.
just
Do that.
click on that and.
X, yep, just doing it. You can't mess up anything. Yeah. Just copy and paste. Control C, Control V. Yeah, so you have to format it. So what I would suggest, you copy, paste it in Notepad first, and then from Notepad, because it has to copy the format. So open a Notepad, paste it there, and then copy again from Notepad and put it there. No, it's the Windows, but it's still from Excel, it puts additional space. So
You just click on copy.
yeah, or copy the text only at the top, and that will work.
Yes. Sir, after doing all the steps, what we have to do?
That's end of your documentation, right? One test case. How many you created?
I created one only, just practicing. Yeah.
Well, practicing, I mean, that makes you perfect if you practice more. So
Yeah. So
work through the second one. I think we got still another 5 minutes here. Or take a break.
oh, there is a save and close. Should I do anything or no? We don't need to do.
No, you just save and close, right? There is nothing else, right? I mean, tools are tools. So, yep. All right, let's have another 5 minutes, okay? And try to wrap up. See if you can, I'm assuming at least you guys have at least one.
One is done.
Okay. Yep. And you can continue practicing. This is accessible from home. So as long as you remember the login, you are good.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move on, right? I think you guys all have at least one test case and maybe a couple of requirements you guys added and so forth. Now let's pay attention here. Let me show you a few more things that might be helpful, right? So if I go back to this particular thing here, right? So we have product backlog, right? We have sprint backlog. We have a few other things as well. So this backlog under the boards, right? So you clicked on the board and now you're on this menu. So here the board view is more of a board type of view, right? Okay. So this view shows all the items in a nice little graphical manner, right here. But if you, these are nothing but product backlog items. Everything that we added is a product backlog. If I go to this view, backlogs, okay, I can see a different view of the same items. Kind of more like a list of the items. Okay, so I just see the same thing like my requirements here, but it just showed it on a listing, all the list, instead of showing me on the board. Okay, so this is more of a backlog view. It's a different view. Again, it's a product backlog. It's not a sprint backlog. Okay. Now, in order to define a sprint backlog, we need to have a sprints first set up. Okay. So let me go to the sprints. Right now, everything is showing up from the product backlog because we haven't defined any sprint here. So let me see what this sprint one is. So it says a current sprint, but let's see if I can do that in its configuration. Or I can add a new sprint here, say, what is it, 09/11/2022 to whatever. Well, actually, let's say my sprint, okay, my current sprint. I'm just giving it name, but it can be my sprint 1, my sprint 2, and all those things. Then generally I define the dates. You guys will never do this. This is done by the product owner and all those folks, but I'm just want to show you quickly. So I have September 11 to my sprint ends on 24. So 2 weeks, right? Generally it's a 2 to 3 weeks, not more than that. 24, and these are my dates. Click create. Okay, it says I do not have work item because I don't have any stories that I pulled into the sprint. Okay, so what I can do is I can go to the backlog here and or board here, right? And what I can do is this particular requirement I'll open and I will assign to a specific sprint to my current sprint. Okay, so once I change it, click save and close. Now, if I go to the sprints, it should show me one item because this is it says my current sprint. Okay, so this out, and you will use this board. So it says right now, these are your, now it says to do, in progress, and done. So generally you work with the board, move this item, drag and drop. Well, okay, so what I can do is I can update the status to from new to, let's say, approved, committed. Well, so this status does not match with one that. Generally, I should be able to drag and drop. Let me go back here. Yep, so it shows approved here, right? So, but again, same thing, I can do drag and drop in the backlog. It's just a configuration, how you are configuring certain things.
So mine says doing and done.
Doing and done.
Mhm.
So you are probably in different type of project. You are not in the Scrum project.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. So make sure you're in the Scrum project because you will
I
get certain.
created 2, so I did it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, but it doesn't matter. Work is still similar. You will have a little bit different view of the things. Okay, so those are some of the 3 things I wanted to show you quickly. So you can play around when you get a chance. What is backlog? What is sprint? And how you assign to the sprint. All you have to do is click on the story and put it in the right sprint. That's all. That's how you pull the stories into the sprint. Okay. What I mean by that is because everything will be in the product backlog initially, but you want to pull that in the sprint, you change the status of the story and assign to a specific sprint. So it will start showing up in the sprint. That's all. So it will call the sprint backlog. Okay. So this is my sprint backlog. I only have one story and that's it. I don't have anything else. Okay. There are a few other items, right? There is a repos. This is the repository, code repository. Okay. This is actually used by the developers. You don't use anything. They use it to manage the code, check in, check out their current work and so forth. Commit pushes, all these things are managed by the development team. You don't do anything. Pipelines, again, these are deployment thing. If you want to deploy to development server, you create a pipeline. So it compiles the code and deploys to the development server. Then you can move the code to the test server, production server, and so forth. You will never touch this part either. Okay. So, but it's good to know sometimes what are those things are. Now here, there is a thing called test plans. Now here you may not have access to do a lot of things because this is a free version. But when you are in the company, you may use it, test plan. You create a new test plan for the sprint and test out all the test cases together and so forth. So it helps you manage the test cases and execution and run reports and so forth. But let's see how we can do it without the test plan, okay, which is a simpler way. So let me come back to our board here. Oh, where my story went? Oh, it's here. I'm going to put it over here just for simplicity. So how do I execute? Remember, you got the code now, you documented everything for implementation phase, right? As part of your SDLC, but you got the code now for testing. Or on Tuesday, you receive the code in the Agile. So I need to go here. Now I need to start executing my all 4 test cases, see if they pass, right? One by one. So you see 3 dots again. And there is a run test right there. So it's simple as that. You click on run. And it will pop up this thing right here. Now, again, these are your steps. This is pulling from the steps. You cannot modify anything here. If you want to change anything, you have to go back into the test case and modify and run the test again. Okay. So this is a run mode. When I'm running the test, it says precondition dealer credential exists. Okay, so it exists. Now you have to follow your own instruction. Now, if something is not clear, you don't know what to do. If you don't have a URL, then you might be talking to the developer, see how to access the site. But when we say testing, so what are we doing here, right? So I'm going to follow step-by-step instruction for myself. It says go to Airflow by entering URL. So I need to open a browser and I need to go to the airflow.azure, whatever URL is specified, right? So let me follow my own instruction, see if it makes sense to me. So give us seconds. First time it takes probably 10 seconds. Okay, so I'm on this page. Okay, so I compare this and say expected result. I'm on the Airflow page. Did I go on Airflow page? Yes, I'm going to pass this. So I'm going to say green arrow. Enter credentials, G training, and login. Okay, so now I'm on the page, G training and training. And I'm going to follow the second step. Okay. And see if I'm able to log in, right? Okay, so I'm on the dealer homepage. And you verify, is it a dealer homepage or not? How do I know it's a dealer homepage? Because I see dealer homepage here, I see load calculator, other functionality. If you see super user homepage or somebody else's, maybe lenders, then you will fail the test case right there. Okay, but otherwise, okay, I'm passing this guy. Then you follow the fourth step, access loan calculator. Okay, how do I access? I click on the calculator. Right, okay, I am on the loan calculator page. I'm going to pass the page. Enter 1,000 as loan amount, click calculate. So I'm following my own instruction, essentially. Click calculate. And I'm getting the $30 over there. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to pass it basically, and my test case is successful. So I'm going to save it. And let's see if it does anything here when I refresh. Now it shows a green test case, right? So it says everything is good for the test case. I move on to the second one. Okay, this is the testing. It's a little bit boring, but it's a testing. You are following your own instruction and working through that, right? Now imagine you have to execute this over and over again. Some people enjoy it, they find it very interesting. Some people find it boring, but again, it's part of the job. Okay. Now let's take a look at one more item.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was going to say that.
So I'm gonna run this test again. All right, so we have everything good up to here, but let's say we didn't see $30, we saw $35, right? Then I'm going to fail at this point. So it will ask you why you failed it. Okay, so here you can say the screen displayed $35 instead of $30. Okay, you can put some comment why it failed. And at this point, what is the next step for you? What is the next logical step? Create a bug, right? Because you captured it here, but you need to create a bug. So that's where you will go to this create bug. Okay, so let me save this one first. If you do save and close, it will close out. Okay, but I think I'm just clicking on this save. And what I can do is create a bug. The good thing about tools is it will say what step was passed and when it failed. And it will show your comment here as well. Okay, so the developer knows, okay, it showed 35 instead of 30, and that's why you are failing this defect. Generally, you will take a screenshot and paste it right here. Okay, you can take a screenshot and you can paste it whatever you have, whatever you took a screenshot. And how do you take a screenshot? Again, I'm going to use snipping tool. All the Windows computer has it, okay? So you don't have to worry about not displaying or whatever. But I'm just taking it and copy and paste it right below that so I can put it for developer's reference. Now you have to enter some defect, invalid loan amount, monthly loan payment is displayed after loan calculation on loan calculator. Put some meaningful description so the developer knows, okay, what is this defect about? You should be able to assign a defect to a specific developer. But what happens in the sprint, daily scrum meetings, you will say, oh, I created this defect. And developers say, let me, whoever is available, they will say, let me work on it. So he will put it in the, because this defect will show up in the sprint, whatever sprint you created. Okay, you can assign to what sprint. So it shows up for the sprint and the developer can start working on the sprint. So at this point, your job is done. Okay, your job is to identify the bugs, defects, and you move on to the next test case. Okay. Then you execute, start working on the second one, which is a negative amount. You follow the steps for third one and fourth one. When all four pass, then only you can say this requirement is implemented correctly in the software.
So for the test cases, you have to create, you have to create the test.
This test scenarios, right? These are different scenarios that you have, and you are adding detailed tests, how to test it.
Okay, so for every like test scenario, you have test steps.
Yep, you have the test steps here, right? These are individual test cases, and all the steps goes along with that. Now, as I'll stress it, important part is how do you come up with the scenarios? That you still have to work through look at the story, apply 3C and T, and come up with the test scenarios. Whether you do it on piece of paper, just like we drew it on tree, right? You still have to complete that exercise outside the tool. Right? You need to understand all the requirements and get a big picture. When who is doing the work, what is the context of the story, and all those things. Okay. And where do I see this bug, right? I don't see it here, the bug I created. So if I go to the backlog or sprint, I should see this bug listed automatically. Because I created that bug for specific sprint. So it shows up here. Developer comes in and say, okay, I need to work on it, and he will move to the board. That's what. You will see it in the backlogs as well. I see this bug here. I think board it may not show up because it's there at the end. So they will say, okay, I'm working on the bug. And once it's completed, they'll mark it to the done. It comes back to you for testing, and you retest. Retest means execute the scenario, what the test case, and see if it passes this time. Then you close out the bug. So you go back in the bug and mark it as closed or done, whatever. Okay. Again, all things is configurable, right? So you can have different statuses, high, medium, low, and all kind of things. I think it's somewhere here. Let me find it. Oh yeah, there you go. Priority to severity. Here you specify high, medium, low. So let's talk about these priorities. I think Dilip mentioned, I think earlier. Critical is something is blocking you for testing any other test case. So if the loan calculator page is showing some crash, that means you can't execute any test case. So you want to mark it as a critical. Right? Now, high is basically something is broken. Maybe you are able to execute other 3 scenarios, but this one, then you mark it as a high. So the sprint can be implemented within the sprint. Medium and lows are something like nice to have. Maybe they made typos on the page, and you want to say, oh, instead of loan calculator, they said loan, some calculators misspelled. So you can mark it as a low or medium, some cosmetic items. Okay. But functionality related, you want to mark it as high or critical. Okay. So you can always define that and update the bugs that way. Okay. But generally, when you say it's done, that means it's implemented correctly, you close it up. It will still show on the board, but it will show on the done column. Okay, any question on the process here? So what we went over, we had the test cases, right? So we created a story. We created test cases, right? Add test. Then we added the details for the test cases. And then we started executing the test case. Then we captured the defect within the tool so that you can, everybody can take a look at it, what the issues are. And then finally you close out if you pass all 4 requirements or tests, then the story is implemented correctly, and you move the story to done at that point. Okay, So the story will move here if everything is green or from the testing standpoint. This happens over 2 weeks. Okay, this is Agile, right? So it happens over 2 weeks, and that's the process. So you repeat it. Next sprint, you're gonna repeat the same thing for different stories.
So like, what's the, so let's say you have 2 sprints, so that's only 6 weeks, right?
Yes, that's the 6 weeks.
What's that whole, what's everything called, let's get this called a sprint, altogether?
Yes, it's a sprint 1, sprint 2, sprint 3. You can have n number of sprint until everything is done. All the features are implemented.
So there is no container of multiple sprints, it's every sprint. Is individual.
So you keep on adding sprint. So as a product owner, as I said, product owner activity for identifying the stories, it's ongoing. So they will keep on adding it. They will prioritize what are the high, medium, low user stories, and you keep on working until everything is done. So it could be over 2 months, or it could be over 2 years. Yeah. All right. Let's see. So I think those are so you mainly work on the board side, okay? You will not work through other stuff other than the test plan, right? As I said, in the companies, you can create the test plan and work through it. Let me see if I can, I don't think they have reporting built in here, but let me show you, see if I can find that place. Yeah, reporting is generally you configure as well. But on the summary view, right, it says 12 work items, shows you some type of progress, but this is typically configured as well. So you can show a nice graph of where we are. You can put the burn down chart here, all kind of things as well. Okay. So let's work through the execution, see if you guys can go in execution, go and create a defect, get familiar with that part as well. Okay. All right. Any question online? Is everybody good?
Good, yes.
Okay. Okay, so we were executing tests right from the board, right, for every test. But I think it has a 1 month trial for the test plan. So after a month, you will not be able to do that. Okay, this test plan. So let me just show you quickly what it looks like. So when I click on test plan, by default, you will get something similar to this. Okay. In all the tests that you have will be on the right side. So the main purpose is, as I said, I mean, earlier, you can group the testing, okay, and create the, basically execute those tests one by one. So for this specific story, we have 4 tests here. So I can select all 4, right, and start executing one by one when I say run web application. Okay, so when I click on run web application, it will prompt me for the test 1 of 4. So I can do second one, third one, fourth one right there. Okay, so I can execute meaning open, follow the instruction, right? What is in there? I'm going to mark it as complete. I'm going to save it. Then I'll move on to the second one. Okay, because I can see it in the test plan I created. Here, I don't have any steps other than just a title because I did not add any details. Okay, but I can still go and do, let's say, failing. Okay, third one, I'm going to do fail test. And fourth one, let's say you have 2 fail. And here, I can say pass test, fail test. I can say block test. That means I'm not able to execute because the functionality is not implemented properly. So I can mark it as a block test. So that this one will get more visibility. And this guy cannot execute because something is not right in the system. Okay. So at this point, I can go and click on save and close. I executed all 4, save and close. Now I can see the progress report. That's built in with the test plans. Okay. So when I click on progress report, it shows me I really ran only 1 test. Other 2 are failed and so forth. Right. So let me see if I can expand a little bit more here. But it shows you a little bit more information here. So this is like a product report or metrics report. Dilip was talking earlier, right? Progress report, right? You can configure this thing to make some meaningful things for you. Again, this is by out of the box from the software. So you may or may not be able to see many things here, but it says not run 3, failed 1, and so forth. It is pulling the statistics based on what you are running from the test plan. Now I can go to the runs, and they can really see whether you really executed a test case or you are just marking it complete, passing everything without executing. Okay, so people can see it. Some tools gives you start time and stop time. So if you say pass in 5 seconds, they will see it right there. Okay. So
everything is steps you do, it measures the time.
yep, timing wise. So they can really see whether you are really working on it. Okay. Based on these tools and all those things. And I've seen people get in trouble. Okay. With this type of reports. Yeah, because sometimes people get, I know it's working and they assume it's gonna be working in the next one. Yeah, that's why they have these reports. So,
People skip regression testing.
right.
That's where they get concern comes.
Yep. You don't want to skip anything. And you can see how many times you ran it and so forth as well. Okay. So they can can find out whether you ran it or not and all those things. Like here, it shows nothing over here, right? Failed, nothing has happened. So again, that's the whole point of the test plan. You can group the tests and execute them together. So for this sprint, right? If you have 3 stories, I can pull all the test cases and group it for that sprint and see all the features passed or not.
Yeah, it's easier.
Yeah, it's easier. Instead of going through one by one and executing, it lets you execute everything one by one in a nice manner. Okay, so that's the test plan thing. Anything else here? Any question?
Often we would be using that.
This one? Yeah, in the companies, they will have full access to the test plan. Yeah,
It will be used
Yeah.
a lot more.
lot more often, this feature. So instead of executing from the boards, you will execute from the test plan.
One thing I wanted to ask was, so this particular project is for everybody who's working on project or it's for
Yeah, anybody who is on the project, they can add that add those users.
But how do
Yeah.
I know if something is assigned to me, not her or anybody else?
So in the sprint meeting, you say, oh, I'm gonna work on this one.
Okay.
It's and you will assign it to yourself, particular task
Okay.
or the test case execution and so forth. Yep. Or if there's a QA lead, he can do that as well, he or she. They go to the board, right? And here I see the 4 test case, right? Right now, everybody has created their own project, right? Because you are logged into your account and you created the stories on your own. But that's not how it works in the company. They create the project once, and they grant you access. They grant all the team members access to this project. So everybody can see what everybody else is doing. Yeah, okay. So, and you can easily assign, I open this test case, and I can easily assign to somebody else if I have few members in my team.
So the test scenarios or the trees that we were doing, for example, if we are working on project, you gave me the scenario,
Uh-huh.
and I came up with the tree. Do I verify with somebody that it is right or not, or?
Yeah, so it's called peer review. So when you create the test case, right? So somebody from your team is looking at it, because everybody is looking at the same thing, same project. And if the QA lead finds that you have no clue what you are writing, then you might be in trouble. So, but you probably want to get feedback from your team members and so forth. So,
So they will assign me the task itself, and then I have to come up with the tree. And
yeah, like story, they say you are responsible for analyzing these 3 stories.
Okay.
One more QA, if there are more than 10 stories, they will have a couple of QAs on the team. So they will say 3 stories you take it, 7 stories you take it, depending on how complex they are.
So in our case, we have like loan calculator, manage user,
Yeah.
manage.
So they will say, yep, Archana, you take those 3 stories, other 3 stories will be somebody else will be taking. And you work through the tree analysis, that's outside, right? That doesn't happen in the tool. So you still have to analyze, come up with the scenarios, and then document in the tool.
How many people?
It's again may depend on the project size. If you are working on 5 people, generally teams are not that big, maybe up to 10 people in the sprint. Maybe half of them would be developers, maybe 1 business analyst, 1 product owner, couple of QAs or something like that. But most of them will be development team, developers. Yeah, they don't go too big a size for this type of development project.
There may be a multiple team.
Yeah, multiple teams. So they have second team will be working on different feature. Yeah, you might be working on one set of user stories. Second team will be working on second set. Okay. So we started out today with the SDLC, right? So you understood that part. Then we talked about the Agile versus little bit difference between the waterfall. So now you can see, visualize, right? Waterfall is typically you get big giant document like Airflow. Here you will get stories and you will have create the document the stories in the tool for Agile. That's the only difference. Otherwise, work-wise, it's the same thing. And what point you do what, right? That's the important part for you. Testing phase, you will execute the actual test cases, like what we did just now, create a defect and fix the defects. That's developers. Okay. Any other things? Okay, if not, then let's talk about homework. So homework wise, make sure you add the stories. You have 6 plus 3, 9 requirements. I'm hoping you have at least 9 test cases by now. Put that in the tool. Plus it out. If you haven't had a chance to work through test cases yet, make sure you get that because that's the important part. Okay. Analyzing the requirement tree and all those things. Then we can Thursday, we can talk about those things.
The new ones.
Yeah, new ones plus old ones. More practice. Now it's up to you how much practice you want to do on the tool. We're not going to force you, hey, why did you create 1 versus 5? But if you have a question on the analysis part or if you're struggling, then we can chat on Thursday on that.
So if you go over the announce for the
So test scenarios, right? So we talked about the test scenarios, right? That's the analysis that you are doing to come up with the test cases and so forth. Yep.
I just have a general question.
Yes.
About this DevOps. So everybody in the team work on this, right? Is it like
Yes, that's correct.
the status, I guess, like whatever is the developer comes in and check here, and analyst and everyone.
Yep, that is correct. So developers is looking at the same story here, right?
Right.
And they are creating the development task by clicking on add task. So they will say, okay, need to develop web load calculator web page. I need a web service for loan calculation. Okay, so they will come up with a development task. Need database component for something, right? So these 3 tasks, so they will pull this task in the sprint as well. When they are complete with this task, they will let you know, or they will update the board, and you will start testing this particular feature, particular story.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it development team wise, right? It's either you, QA, or the developers. They are doing the actual work, right? Business analyst is done as soon as they create the story and they are good.
Right.
So it's a QA and developers.
Gotcha. So analyst doesn't really play a part in this.
No, analyst plays part, right? So
I know what the part is, but I'm just saying, like, in the DevOps. Here, after they.
So if you're, like it's analyst, right, we are working in an agile way, right? There may be clarification, there may be details that analyst needs to put in. So remember, you had a backlog where there's new items. You work on the things which is pulled on the sprint, but the analyst is working on items that he's getting ready for the next sprint for you. But putting all the details, working with the business user, getting all the details of what it means to do a loan calculation.
yeah, and sometimes those sprint reviews are conducted by analysts as well, because they understand the features. So they help out with the UAT as well, along with the QAs. It again, that depends, varies by the company.
Okay,
Yeah.
makes sense.
But they are on the project. So they if they need if somebody needs clarification, they have to go and get the clarification.
Again, I would not like you guys to think about it, hey, I'm a QA, so I'm working this tool only for this. This is the team tool.
Yeah.
Everybody's working on it. You're just doing your part in this tool.
Right.
And then connecting it with the part that the others are doing in this tool, like just as Harsha pointed out, the developer is doing the work too. When the code is ready, that's when you start doing your testing. Till then, you are just doing a designing of the test cases.
Yep. Any other question? All right, then I think we can wrap up then today. And Thursday, if you make sure you practice, right, this thing at home, because this is accessible. Don't forget the URL, right? Otherwise, I know you guys will text me or send email or whatever.
I don't know how to-
You already sent them.
Yeah.
Did I?
I got it from there.
Well, not the application URL. I'm talking about devops.azure.com.
Oh.
Okay,
Oh.
so, but I'll put that in the email if you for
So
you.
the key thing is that remember, like it's you work at least through 12 requirements. Between now and Thursday, practice, put all those 12 requirements, put all the test cases, execute it. Because the more you will practice in this tool, the more comfortable you will get doing it. So this is the core of the work that you will be doing day in, day out at the work.
Yep. Yeah, next we will dive into additional topics. So now it's a busy thing. One thing I want to let you, so there is a little bit change in the schedule. So September 24, which is Saturday, we will not have any session, but we will extend to the last session to push back for one more Saturday. Okay, so just September 24, no session.
So last session is not October 1st and 2nd.
Yes, it will be whatever the weekend. after.
9 and
Yep.
10.
No, it will be there, just one session is extended the camp is extended for 1 week. So here, for the date wise, right?
Yeah.
So 24th, we will not have it, but 25th, yes, we will have session, okay? But then the second supposed to be the last date, but we'll carry on to the 8th. Okay,
So
because
it's,
this is a reserve weekend, so we wanted to have a little bit flexibility.
it's not gonna affect the next class, right? The BA class?
No.
Okay, because
Because
that's,
we have reserve session in the, we account for one week as a reserve week. Because people get sick, right? We get sick too, so.
Yeah.
We generally account for one. Okay, but I just want to let you know so that you can plan accordingly. Yeah, October 8th would be the, instead of 2nd.
So August, October 1st, 2nd will be there, classes.
Yep.
Then
8th,
one class.
yep.
Got it.
All right, then we can wrap up for today. Okay. Sorry, we didn't have any breaks here, but yeah. All right, I'll send out reminder, homework item in the email as well. Okay,
Yep. Can you please send us a URL too?
yes,
URL.
okay, but make sure you save it on your machine. Yeah, I
Right.
will bookmark it, DevOps.azure.com.
Yep.
Bookmark it. All right, so I'm gonna close the meeting for online folks, unless you guys have any question.
Thank you. Bye bye. See you.
Bye-bye.